I've actually had some comments and questions on the site regarding the entire soccer UTC layout, and if I could share that. And that's what the focus of this tutorial is going to be. I'm going to go over each one of these individual components that you see on this soccer layout. I'm going to go over each one of them in detail. If we've already covered some of these elements in detail, I'll point that out along the way, and then I'll show you what tutorial you can go to get a more of an in-depth description. We're going to have this and so much more for you today on this episode of One Man Stream. Okay, what we're going to do just to start out is I'm going to show you these graphic buttons right here. This is actually how I bring the graphics in and out. So let's go ahead and click on the properties icon. And on this one right here, you can see I'm using the very familiar overlay input X. And on this particular input, which is our substitution graphic, we want to make sure that we have the input chosen. These are all the available inputs in this particular vMix production. And here's our soccer substitution graphic right here. And we're going to bring that in on overlay 4. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And when I click on it, it's going to bring that graphic in. I made the graphic very large just for demonstration purposes. Usually it would be about the size of a lower third. Now I'm going to show you how I get the information into this graphic. All I did was I went to the cog button right here and clicked on it, and it brings in our properties box for this particular UTC input. So the way that this one is operated, the command that we're using is overlay input X, and we pretty much beat this into the ground. When we use overlay input X, it allows us to use the button as a toggle function. The input that we're using is the soccer substitution graphic. These are all the ones that are available within this vMix UTC production, and we just want to make sure we have the correct one selected, and that is this soccer substitution right here. We're going to bring it in on overlay channel 4. So when we click on it, it's going to bring that graphic in, and then when we click on it again, it's going to take it away. I'm going to show you how we actually map that graphic, and we do it through bar delimited data. You can see the player's first name, and then a bar, and then their number, and that's every one of these in the column is set up the same way: player name, bar, and then their number. I actually just bring this in as a list that I created in Notepad, and when I hover over these two buttons right here, one says Save List and one says Load List. So what I would do is I would click on the Load List button. The list for this particular input, it is this one right here. It's the one that says Metro Louisville FC roster BDD, and that stands for bar delimited data. So I just click on that and click open, and it brings in this information right here. And it says add list item. When you click on that button, it's going to add one more line to the bottom, and then you can go ahead and add that without having to go to the list, add it to the list, save the list, and then reload the list. So that's just that's a quick way that you can add the information. And that's actually how we loaded all the information for home player in, home player out, then also visiting player in and visiting player out. Well, what we did on home player in, when we mapped it, we used the soccer substitution graphic, and then we use in player name text, and then in player number text. And so the first piece is the in player name, and it's going to go, I need to make sure that we do this. This is something we've also covered before, but anytime we're using bar delimited data, we want to make sure we have the table box checked right here, so it'll use the information as a table. So for this first input, which is in player name, it's going to come to the very first piece of information, and it's going to put it in this portion of the graphic. Then since we have it set up as a table, then it's going to go to the next piece of information, and that's going to be the number, and it's going to put that in the in player number portion of the graphic. And then we're going to go to visiting player, and you can see we did the exact same thing. Well, how's that going to work? If we have the visiting team and the home team both set up in the same part of that graphic, how are we going to be able to reflect when we have a visiting player that's going in and out, or visiting substitution that's going in and out, and a home substitution that's going in and out? Well, that's where these lists come in. In this particular list here, this is a visiting player. So when I loaded this list right here, these are the visiting players. This right here, again, these are the visiting players. And then over here on the home list, when we loaded these are the home players. And then these are the home players. So what happens is when I'm doing a substitution, Let's go ahead and hit the drop-down menu. For the home team here, we're going to have Cyrus Harmon, who's coming in, and the player that's going out is going to be Leonardo Espinoza. And since this is the home team, we want to make sure we have the Lou City graphic chosen. And then it's going to happen pretty early in the second half. So we're going to say within the 55th minute. So let's go ahead and display that graphic. Let's do the substitution graphic. And you can see where it brings in Cyrus Harmon. He's in, and Leonardo Espinoza is out. Well, one peculiar thing that you'll notice is the players are populated on both sides of this graphic. So when I pulled those players up, since we're using the same graphic, we don't have multiple graphics for this, we're using the same graphic. When I choose a player, it's putting the players in these fields on both sides. Okay, so we have a visiting player substitution. We're going to hit the drop-down menu. We have Joel Serrano is coming in, and the player that's going out is Mateo Kidd. Well, you can see that it's the same way on both sides of this graphic, but now we're doing a visiting team substitution. So we're going to make sure that we have Chicago House AC chosen as the team, and then this was a little bit later in the second half. So we're going to do this in the 65th minute. We're going to click substitution. You can see the Chicago House logo. You can see it's in the 65th minute, and you can see we have Joel Serrano in for Mateo Kidd. So that's how the substitution graphic worked. The next graphic that we did is the break graphic. And that's this graphic right here. And then these bits of information here, you can see, well, actually can't see. I'm going to have to take that graphic back out. These bits of information actually populate the graphic. I don't want to have a whole bunch of different fields set up, so what I do is I map these particular areas to different graphics. So this area right here, when I input this information for home team, it's going to input that information in the soccer scoreboard graphic and the soccer break graphic. And since this is the home team side, these red buttons are home team, the blue buttons are visiting team, I want to make sure that the title for these inputs are also home team. So anytime I put a team name here, it's going to go into, I have it mapped to the home team portion on different graphics that I have in this layout. Same thing for visiting team. I have it mapped to the same two graphics, soccer scoreboard, soccer break, but over here, the title portion of those graphics, I have visiting team name set up on both of those. So if I would happen to change the name, let's change this to Tim's team. Let's go ahead and show the graphic. You can see where it changed Chicago House AC to Tim's team, but let's go ahead and change it back. And now we have it back to what it was before. These two pieces of information right here are the record for each one of the teams. I'll bring the graphic back in. You can see that those are reflected right here. So I'm going to go ahead and change for the home team. Let's go ahead and say that they've had 2 draws. So I'll go ahead and put a 2 there, and you can see that that instantly changes to 6-0-2. And then as far as this graphic goes right here, we have different periods set up. So we'll go to this drop-down menu right here. That is where this information is, and we'll hit the drop-down menu. And we have it set for pregame, first, half, second, overtime, penalty kicks, and final. So if I bring the graphic back in, this is where this information is going to be coming from. Let's bring the graphic back in. And I change it from pregame to first, to halftime, second half, overtime, penalty kicks, and final. And that's how that information is changed within the graphic. And right here, you can see home image and visiting image. And this is how I change the logos on the scoreboard graphic. So if I choose a different logo, let's say we're going to choose this one right here, which is Oldham County. If I select that, you can see where the visiting team, where their logo changes to this OC for Oldham County. So I'll change it back to Louisville FC, which is this bottom one right here. I'll go ahead and click on that, and you can see where the logo changes back to Louisville FC. Now, same thing for the visiting team. We'll go to the drop-down menu. We'll choose another logo. Let's choose this one for Western. So we'll go ahead and click on it, and you can see where the visiting team logo changed to this new logo right here. Or when I click on the cog, it brings in the properties for this particular button, and you can see that it's merely a list widget. Okay, now next we're going to go over to the game clock. Let's bring our graphic back in, and you can see at the very bottom in the middle of this graphic is the clock. And I'm going to go up here where it says game clock, and I'm just going to click on the play button. And when I do that, you can see it starts counting up, and it's going to count up to 45 minutes, as you can see in the default time right here. I clicked on the cog for game clock, and you can see the properties box comes in, and this is set up for the timer widget. And we have it mapped to the soccer scoreboard, and then we have it set to the clock portion of the soccer scoreboard. Within format, when this first comes up, it comes up hour, minutes, seconds, and we just have it set up for minutes, and seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and pause it, and you can see that it is counting up. There's a box right here that says reverse. If you wanted this to count down instead of counting up, you would want to make sure that you have this box right here checked so it would go in reverse. But we want to make sure it counts up, so we're going to make sure that it's unchecked. I'm going to click the play again, and it starts counting up. It's going to count up to 45 minutes. I can start the clock here. I can pause the clock here. When I click on it, it pauses. When I click on it here, it starts. And if we look up here under the game clock, I check this box right here next to start, and I check this box next to pause, and then I put a couple commands in here under link. Under start, I have start time, and under pause, I have pause time. So that's how these buttons right here are controlled. If we look here, for start time, the command we're using is execute link, and then the link that we're using is start time. So when we click on it, it starts the time. This one right here, we have the command again, execute link, but the link this time is pause time. So when we click on pause, it pauses the time. When we click on start, it starts the time back up. Now, we have a couple pieces of information within this graphic that we can turn on and off, and that's these periods. Right now we have the first period on. If I click on it, the first period goes away. Well, how is that controlled? Well, that's from using the set visible on function, and this is where I'm going to point you to another tutorial. In the scoreboard tutorial, we go into this in quite a bit of detail. I'm just going to show you this rather quickly. The set X visible allows me to toggle something on and off, just like set input X. So let's take a look at this. Again, on this we have it set up for set X visible. Again, we're using the soccer scoreboard graphic, and we're using the index of 11. So let's click on the title information. The indexes are broken up into image sources and text sources. And since the period is actually a form of text, 11 is first period. So that's why, and we're going to click that. So that's why when we click this button right here, it allows us to toggle the first period off and on. So let's go take a look at the second period. So same thing, set X visible. Again, it's the soccer scoreboard graphic. Again, we have the type set to text. The text is either set for image or, the type is set to either image or text, and you have to make sure that's set correctly. We're dealing with text right now, so we want to make sure we have type set as text. If we left that set to image, it would not display correctly. So let's go to the index. Again, we're looking under text. Let's go to index 10, and that's second period. So when we click this button off and on, it's going to allow us to turn the second period off and on. So right now it's on. We click it again, it's off. Click it one more time, it's on. Click it one more time, it's off. Let's go ahead and reset the first period. Over here, this allows us to set the extra time on and extra time off. I'm going to click on extra time. You can see where the extra time comes in, and this turns extra time off. and we go back to regular time. Well, this is done pretty much the same way. Set visible on, this is where we're going to bring in the extra time. So again, we're using the soccer scoreboard. We're going to click on the title index. Let's go look and see what a 9 is, and 9 is the extra time text. So that's going to bring in the extra time text. This next part is going to set X visible off, which is index 12. Index 12 is the regular clock, so it's going to turn the extra time text on, and it's going to turn the clock off. And then it's going to set visible on index 8, and index 8 is the extra time clock. So it's going to bring in the extra time name and the extra time clock, and it's going to turn off the regular time clock. Let's see what happens when we click on it. It does exactly that. When we click on extra time off, it's going to do the reverse of that. It's going to turn those two red elements off, the extra time and the extra time clock, and then it's going to bring the regular time clock back in. And that is indeed what happens. This right here is our master audio, and the only reason I do this is I just want to make sure that I always have audio going out to my stream. I don't want to ever have something going on when I'm so involved with switching cameras and graphics and everything else. This gives me a quick check to make sure that I do have audio going out over my stream. So how did we do this? Well, I clicked on the properties cog here. You can see that it's the volume widget. We have an entire tutorial dedicated to the volume widget. I need to turn your attention to that one if you want this information in a little bit more detail. But all we did is we went down here to individual properties under target. Let's hit the drop down menu. You can either do the master audio or you can do any of the buses that you have set up within your vMix production. I wanted this to be my master audio, so I make sure that I have audio going out to my production. Under style, you can either do it vertically or horizontally. And then you can also click these tick boxes right here to show the meter. I have it set up to show the slider and to show the meter. So here's my slider right here. I can take the volume up and down. Here's my meter right here. You can see it going up and down as we change our level within the production. This is covered in more detail in our tutorial that explains the scoreboard graphic, but I'll show you our home score animation. It brings in the word goal for 7 seconds. Then that's going to go out. It's going to bring the score in. And then it's going to have a little bit of a break, and then it's going to fade the score in. Same thing for visiting score. It's going to show goal again for 7 seconds. It's going to bring the score back in. And then it's going to fade the score in. That is all covered, like I said, in a tutorial that we dedicated just to the scoreboard graphic. All right, so that pretty much covers this first section. And the second section, we're going to go ahead and, well, while we have the scoreboard graphic up, I'm going to show you something else that we were able to do. We can actually display yellow cards and red cards. We'll do a yellow card for the home team, and we'll do a red card for the visiting team. And these again are displayed, and they stay up for 7 seconds, and then they will go away. And how do we do that? Well, we do that the same way with the set X visible function, and we do that with different parts of the graphic. And make sure you do watch the tutorial that we did on the scoreboard graphic, because there are some certain things you have to do within GT Title Designer to be able to turn these different pieces of information off and on. It's under data, there's a hidden box you have to check, and then that allows you to use these set X visible on and set X visible off functions within vMix UTC. So this is what we have going on. We have set X visible on for index 4, which is a image, so it's going to be under source. So 4 is yellow card, so that brings in the little yellow card graphic. And then set X visible on for index 7, which is a text. Index 7 is visiting player name, visiting player penalty name. Oh, actually we bring it in for 10 seconds and not 7 seconds. And then we do the reverse. We're going to turn image 4 off, and image 4 again was the yellow card. And then we're going to turn index 7 off, which is a text image, and 7 was visiting player name. Well, again, with the drop-down menu that you see right here, this is going to give you a hint that these are list widgets, which is indeed what they are. And again, I created lists in Notepad and brought them into the graphic using the load list function right here. These buttons right here are my replay buttons, and I'm just going to show you one of them very quickly. You can see it is just a widget button. The command that we're using is replay mark in and out, and then the interval that we're using is 3 seconds. So when we click the button, it's going to go back in time 3 seconds, and it's going to create a 3-second replay clip. The commands are all going to be the same for these, except under the seconds line, this one is going to be 5, this one's going to be 10, this one's going to be 20, and this one's going to be 60. And then I have this button right here. That's kind of my fail-safe button. And I only use these just on the side. I only use these when I'm the one that's doing the entire production. If we're doing a production where we have a dedicated replay operator, they're actually using their own vMix UTC setup. They're operating replay outside of this particular setup. So this right here is going to play the last event, and let's see what that command is. Replay, play last event to output. It plays to output whatever your last created replay clip was. This right here allows me to change the replay speed. And the command for that is replay set speed. We have this one set to 0.25, which is 25%. This one would be 0.5. This one would be 0.75. And this one right here is going to be 1. And that's going to be at 100% would be the replay speed. The last things that I need to show you is under cameras. I have this information very close at hand so that I don't have to wander very far in order to change things. This will change my cameras. This right here is camera 3. And this I have it set up for cut direct to input, which would be my bird dog camera 3. I had Matt was the camera operator for camera 3 on this particular event. This one right here, again, takes me to another bird dog mini. Greg was the camera operator here for camera 2. And then this is actually a camera that I operate. It's our bird dog P200. And I am the camera operator for that. I hope you enjoyed this look behind the scenes of our vMix UTC Soccer graphic. If you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up and a like, and make sure that you do subscribe so that you'll be alerted as soon as new videos are posted. Thank you very much.